Let's see who's going to Paris. It wasn't the best start from Sha'Carri Richardson. Tamari Davis got out better. Now Sha'Carri starts to wind up, but she goes past Jefferson. Sha'Carri Richardson, 10.70.
That was Sha'Carri Richardson qualifying for her first Olympic Games after winning the 100-meter finals late last month in Eugene, Oregon. Richardson finished in first place with an incredible time of 10.71 seconds. For runners like Richardson, who will be going for gold at the Paris Olympics, their path to success was paved by the many women before them. After all, throughout history, a number of men in the medical establishment, media, and athletic associations have fought to keep women from running, sometimes literally trying to push them out of the race. That picture, by the way, is Catherine Switzer, who in 1967 became the first woman to officially run the Boston Marathon, despite the race organizer trying literally to throw her out. In her new book entitled Better, Faster, Farther, How Running Changed Everything We Know About Women, journalist Maggie Mertons tells the story of Catherine Switzer and other women who have defied limitations and propelled themselves to the forefront of competitive running. And Maggie joins us now. So I don't know if you're a runner, but I am, and I love this. I think we need this so much. What did you set out to do in putting together this book?
Oh, this book started for me, many years ago. I grew up as the only girl in my family. I have 4 brothers, and I've always been a sports enthusiast, a sports fan. And, as a journalist, I really started my career writing a lot about women in the workplace and the pay gap and, the CEO gap, things like that. And when I started to apply those same findings to, women athletes, I was shocked. We're not talking about just like 60 cents on the dollar. We're talking about less than 1% of what their male peers make in some instances. And I was often faced with this response that, this is because of biology. This is because women are physiologically weaker and slower, and so therefore less valuable in this athletic marketplace. And I really wanted to look into the context of that, the history there, and the myths that women have been told about their own physiological capabilities.
So in the book, you write about the untold stories of groundbreaking female runners. Is there a favorite that you had in all of this?
Yeah, I had one. Florence McDonald is this incredible runner. She was in the 1928 Olympics. She was only an 18-year-old then. That was the first Olympic Games where women were allowed to have track and field events. There were only 3 running events: the 100-meter, the 4x100-meter relay, and the 800-meter. And there was a lot of kind of myth-making and fear-mongering around the 800-meter race even before it began. Because there were a lot of people who said that this was going to be too hard on the female body, these 2 laps around the track, the 800-meter. And, in the aftermath, actually, there were all these stories that said that the women didn't make it, or they dropped out, or they fainted, or needed medical attention afterwards. And I was able to kind of piece together Florence's story, who she was the only American who made the final, and she had never really been quoted in any of this media coverage about what really happened. And I was able to sort of talk to her son, who is still alive, and find an interview that was done with her when she was in her 90s, kind of explaining what really happened in this race, and that all of the women actually did really great.
Wow. They made both laps. That's amazing. Lauren Leader, go ahead.
Well, I love this, Maggie, and Mika knows I love a rewriting of history that fills in the pictures where we've never had it. And I was curious about what you feel like were really the big turning points in terms of, the sort of elevation of women in the sport. Obviously, I think about women like FloJo and, of course, now Sha'Carri. But how much did Title IX make a difference as a turning point in terms of, like, sort of the seriousness with which women could participate in sports like running at the highest level?
I mean, Title IX has definitely made a huge difference just in the way that women's sports is perceived, right? But it took time. I mean, the women's Olympic marathon did not exist until 1984.
Wow.
This is only the 40th anniversary of the women's Olympic marathon, and even up to that point, you know, in the 1980s, when they were voting on whether to include this event, there were still doctors saying this might not be, you know, physiologically possible for women. This might not be physiologically beneficial for women. You know, there might be undue health effects. So, you know, we've had to fight these myths so far along the way. And, you know, Title IX is one step, but there have been so many steps before that of women doing things when they were told they were not able to and when they had no access.
So what's next? Because you know, obviously now we do have these like big sports stars and the Olympics are coming, and, you know, a lot of these runners are becoming household names. You mentioned that they are paid very small amounts of money on the dollar relative to their male counterparts. So what do we need to do now to make sure that women's sports in the running arena, you know, is fair and on par with that of the men?
Yeah, I mean, I think a large part of it is the way that we talk about it, is the way that we, you know, value these women athletes, whether it's running, whether it's basketball, whether it's soccer, all of those things. We need to start seeing these physical capabilities as so impressive as what these male athletes do all the time, and are kind of given the benefit of the doubt. We don't need to be treated, you know, as second-class citizens when it comes to sports, because what these women athletes are doing is just as elite and just as impressive. And I think once we have that conversation where we don't have to, you know, push them to the side or the margins, we're going to start, you know, being able to accept, you know, women as part of this beautiful piece of humanity that, you know, that's the reason sports is so exciting and interesting, right? As we love to see people push themselves to their limits, and, you know, women are just as capable of that as men are.
The new book is entitled Better, Faster, Farther, How Running Changed Everything We Know About Women. It's on sale now. Maggie Mertons, thank you so much for coming on the show and for writing this book. And for more with Maggie, check out our interview with her at knowyourvalue.com. This is obviously a big-time KYV story. We appreciate it. And up next...